Alright, so this is a re-edit of an interview I did with a voice actor called Stig Sydtangen 2.5 years ago. The audio might be a bit scuffed at times, but hey, it will be better than the original at least. I've done my absolute best to improve this edit. And as a side note, no, I don't have the original footage left, so the audio from the original video will have to do for now. I hope you enjoy listening to it.
Greetings, test subjects. My name is Virgil, and welcome to the Aperture Video Capture Initiative. Hello Nephix. Hello everybody. Well, it's usually more fun, but there's always this slight element of stress just as you start. When you start working with a line or something, you always get this kind of heightened chest in a way, and your breathing gets a bit shallow. Especially if you're working with other people in the same channel. I've done that before, not for games, but in a different setting. I recorded with a studio engineer and with several other people in the same channel. And normally doing that, those kinds of voiceover jobs, I don't really get all that nervous. But because of all the other people in the same channel, you get kind of like this, ooh, you feel it a bit that you're not alone. Yeah, and whenever you start working, like I said, with especially with characters, as you start working with it, you feel this a bit, this kind of tension that's there at first. And then you start getting annoyed if you don't manage to get it working properly, or you get positively surprised that it works exactly as you thought it would, and then it kind of subsides eventually as you start working and you don't think as much as you do it. You just kind of say the stuff as the character in a way. It was fun. It was nice. I didn't really give it any thought that it was much different from doing voiceover in any other setting. If I were to say anything, it would be that it's kind of like an extension of doing stuff for Portal Stories Mel, really. It's the same character and in the same setting, so there's not really much difference there between those two. Well, I've always been interested in games. To make a long story short, from I was 6 years old and up, I was playing like the Sega with Sonic when Sonic was good. Yeah. Just been playing all of those games that came out during that period, like Red Alert and Z from the Bitmap Brothers, and a lot of story-driven games as a whole. This was when I was going to start acting, for when I got the inspiration to start doing voiceover. I had this dry period of gaming where I just moved into a new apartment, a small apartment for when I was studying in Oslo. And I was just about to start studying for my theater degree. Okay. Well, degree is maybe a bit harsh. It was a degreeless degree. But in any case, as I moved in there was no internet, and this was right around the time when they started adding forced internet connections to play anything, even single-player offline games. Yeah. So I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, not really having anything to do, except I had my computer up. I had brought a lot of stuff with me. And one of those things that I'd brought was a CD from Computer Gamer, one of those computer gaming magazines. And they had this showcase of video game mods that they highlighted on one of those CDs. And I'd never really given it any thought, but I saw it next to Counter-Strike. And I thought, well, Counter-Strike was pretty cool. That's a mod. Started out as a mod. Well, yeah, and it's story-driven. I can play this without internet. I'll I'll give it a try. It's either that or being bored to death. And that mod was Azure Sheep for Half-Life 1. Have you tried it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should pick it up. It's excellent. If it still works, I'm not sure. There was a period where a lot of Half-Life mods just plain broke. But I finished that, and by the time I was finished with it, I had gotten the internet. And then I thought, oh my god, this was so cool, and it's free. There has to be more like it. So I started searching for mods, and the first thing that popped up was ModDB. And I thought, mod database sounds promising. And then I spent the next 2 weeks or so just downloading and playing the hell out of all kinds of mods. Everything I could get my hands on, really. Mostly for Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, because they were easy to install. I found that there was, like with all modding, there was the very difference in the quality of the voiceover. Not all the characters had voices that matched the age of the characters. And the technical quality too was also a bit all over the place. And like I said, it's how it is. It's how it must be, since it's a hobby project. People do it for fun. And then I realized that, shit, I want to do this. I want to voice over for projects like this. And I just recently got a handy recorder, one of those from Zoom, kind of like just hold in your hand and you record. And that was around the time I really started out. And that was back in, oh Jesus, that was back in 2007, I think. That's a long time ago. Well, usually I get the script. In any job case, I always get sent a text if it's a game-related stuff or something else like that. In some rare cases, like with Cry of Fear, I got a storyboard, which showcased like how the scenes would look, and just to get me into the atmosphere of what was going on. That was really interesting. I wonder if I'll see that again. Storyboarding. And then after that, I depending on how on whether it's a character or not, I sit down with the script and I work out this character. I see if there's quirks written in that the character reacts in some particular way. How he reacts, how he responds text-wise, just to get kind of a feeling of what kind of character is this. Is he a snide, sarcastic kind of character? Is he like a naive, oblivious kind of guy? Or is he like a rougher soldier type? Something like that.
Yeah.
And after I've done that, with notes if required, depending on how long the script is, I start rehearsing what I've noted. Sometimes I spend a bit of time trying to create the character, try out different voices, see what sticks, see what works, what appeals to me as I work with the character. And then in some cases that work doesn't stop until I've actually recorded a couple of lines, and it kind of falls into place. And you just start doing the character in this or that manner. I've experienced that with 2 characters actually, one of them being Virgil. And after that, you record the lines, you start cutting, you realize you made mistakes, you go back to recording, then you cut, hopefully you fixed all the mistakes, and then you send the lines in for evaluation. Yeah. Well, the hardest part is that I've seen from people who talk to me about what should I do with voice acting. The hardest part is usually just to start. Of course, having a decent quality microphone is always a plus. If it sounds like you're using a microphone over Xbox Live or something like that, and with a lot of background noise and computer fans and all kinds of stuff being picked up, then of course that's gonna sound weird when mixed in with the more pristine sound quality of a regular game.
Yeah.
So just see if you can find a microphone that doesn't cost all that much, but which is like in like a decent range. Try voice acting out. Do it for fun. Find something on ModDB or on the Voice Acting Club or some kind of site where they do fan and hobby projects. And then if you start really enjoying it, or even earn a bit of cash from doing it, then keep it going. Apply for new stuff, upgrade your equipment. At least that's how I started. I started out with this handy recorder, where I just where my studio was just kind of me holding the microphone with a towel, a slightly damp towel over my head to block like the room ambience. And now I have a voice recording cabinet with a condenser microphone and a mixer, and I can record stuff that sounds really pristine and in a dry environment that doesn't you don't hear what kind of size the room you're recording in is. It's kind of just an upward motion, really. Voice acting is actually not my main thing.
It's more like a hobby.
Yeah, it started out that way, and now it's more like a side job in my firm. So it kind of like 10%. It earns like 10% of my yearly income just doing voiceover. Yeah. So it's not something you can live off. At least not in my state at the moment. But what I mostly do is I do classical singing. I have a master's degree in classical song. So I just got back from a performance of the opera Tosca that we had in Kristiansand, and then we toured up the west coast as far up as to Tromsø, like way up north, inside the polar circles. We actually got to see northern lights. It was really fun. Cool. So yeah, that's my kind of main thing. I might also have to pad it out a bit with some part-time job elsewhere for dry spells whenever they happen, and they will happen. They always do. Freelance life.
Okay.
No, in a way, I kind of answer this a bit back. But I do most of the paid jobs that I do aren't from games. I actually haven't earned that much from games. Yeah. Mostly I do Norwegian voiceover for internal like corporate stuff, like e-learning and such. Where you describe a product or some kind of service that they're doing, like kind of like this kind of training stuff. Okay. And it's fun. It's nice. It's very diverse. I've never done something similar twice. And my maybe proudest achievement in outside of gaming in that regard is that if you go to the European Solidarity Center in Poland, in Gdansk, I actually did the Norwegian audio guide for that museum. So if you pop on a headset over there and listen to the Norwegian version, that's me.
Cool.
Yeah, lots actually. I'll probably forget a lot of the games that I really enjoyed, like in the moment now. I'm not much of a movie guy, so it's mostly into games. I really enjoyed. There might not be a lot of people who are into the same game, but Ace Combat Squadron Leader for PlayStation 2. I loved the story there, and for a good reason. I looked into writing techniques later after I played it, and as I looked into, they had this kind of pancake layer thing of things to do when writing a good game, and it kind of checked all the boxes. So that I also really liked the Mass Effect games, even though the ending of number 3 was a bit anticlimactic. I was not a fan of Andromeda. That was
No
a
one
tedious, boring game. I think it's not an unpopular opinion that Andromeda was pretty bad. I really liked Dragon Age 2.
Okay.
That was an excellent game. I also, let's see, I noted down some of these. Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Yeah.
Heavy Rain and Telltale's The Walking Dead moved me to tears. And Alien Isolation. Oh, I love that game. That was fantastic. Oh yeah, you're right. That's a difficult question. I was thinking about it earlier, and I thought, wow, how many hours did I use recording it? Because you don't do all the work in one day. It's kind of just you do a bit at a time. Especially when it's for a character like that, you kind of do one session and then you realize, oh, I should have done this instead, and then you kind of fall into the character and then you do small takes just to be able to see if there's any errors so you can fix them before you go too far. But I think I might have, for the recording alone, I think I probably spent 5 hours or so, like in total. Recording the sound isn't really what takes time. It's cutting the sound and editing it to get rid of all the background stuff, like if you accidentally knock into the cable or something, or just removing breaths as you start. That's really what takes up most of the time.
Yeah.
But for Portal Stories Mail, there was when I recorded about halfway through, or like 3/4 of the way through, there was a pretty significant change in the script, so I had to do that stuff over again.
Oh.
But it was for the best, though. It was a good change. I think it made the game better for it. I would say it. I would say it was equally interesting. Of course, there's a lot more in Portal Stories Mel. There's a lot more funny lines, just volume-wise, in Portal Stories Mel. So it's a bit of an unfair comparison in a way, because the lines for Meet the Chorus 2 were hilarious. I've watched all the animations after when it was released. And it's the same humor. It's the Portal humor, and I love it.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of volume. How much of it? That depends. Really, every character is different. But to pull some that were very different into perspective, when I recorded Simon from Cry of Fear, for some scenes there I just voiced it as if my main motivation was just alone and afraid, in a way. He's unsettled by all these things, and it's interesting because you can hear how much more I get into character as the game progresses. Because the first few scenes were also the first ones that we recorded, and up until the roof scene, those are I've listened to them afterwards, and if there were lines I could redo, those would be the ones.
Okay.
And then for the ending monologues are probably the ones that I would have to put most effort into. In that case, for the one where he's just completely resigned to his fate, I just laid down on the floor, and I thought, like, everything is heavy, everything is just over, everything is just finished, and I just held the recorder above me, and I spoke as if the same feeling you get in your voice as you just wake up and there's just no tension, like nothing.
Okay.
And for recording these sounds when you get hurt, and for sprinting, I lived in an apartment on the 5th floor when I recorded this.
Oh.
So for sprinting, I just started the recorder, had it on one of these stands actually at the time. And I ran up and down the staircase, like all 5 floors, 2 times. And then I ran up to the recorder and just and then I just stood there breathing. And for damage sounds, I kind of just imagined touching something hot, like a hot plate, or just trying to imagine how would it feel to either be cut by something or to get hit by something blunt. It's like, how does the body react and how does it affect your breath? And then the result is that way. Virgil was he was a much different case because the writer there he also told me that he wrote the character with me in mind, the way I speak, the way I talk, kind of how I can and just turn the snide part up to 11. And then I kind of added a bit more nasal touch to him as I went, so you get this very high up version, this very almost happy, lots of teeth, very smiling character all the time, and he's here all the time. And no, Mel, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
The voice in your head.
Yeah, pretty much. And then for a third character, which I did for a Skyrim mod, which was the Shadow of Meresis. In that one, I did a crazy guy. It was the ghost of the person that was possessing a painting of himself. And he is totally off his rockers in terms of sanity. And for that version, I thought, okay, what makes crazy people
Crazy?
Yeah, crazy. It's that they are so very much up and down, like from 1 to 100 and then to negative 100. That they don't hold one single thought all the time. It's like what makes them. What's the word I'm looking for? Jesus, it's completely out of my head. When you can't unpredictable, that's what it is. If you're totally unpredictable and you just get new thoughts all the time. So and just add in like a bit of psychotic laughter in there as well. So that was very interesting to work with. I find that crazy characters are usually the most interesting to work with. Well, I would say water, because of water, it freshens up your voice. You need moisture for a rich voice. It goes the same way with singing, really. If you drink coffee, then you might get a bit dried out, for example, and also you might get a bit of tension because coffee is an upper. Then again, if you have a character that is either has this slightly dry voice or a character that is supposed to be very hyper, then of course coffee could also help. It's all in what you look for, really. But I would say water. Water is always good. Drinking a bit of water like an hour before you start working is usually good because that gives the water time to effect.
Okay.
Well, the most annoying thing, at first I had problems thinking of anything, because most of the annoying stuff that happens is usually due to yourself making errors. And then you sit there listening, it's like, oh god, why? Either if it's inflection because you do something wrong in acting. That symptom can also strike after you turn stuff in and you see the finished product, and it's like, why did I do this? Why didn't I do this differently? Why didn't I record something else? I figured that mostly the annoying stuff is stuff that is outside of your what you can do anything with. For example, I had a job scheduled for a day, and during that day they did some kind of construction work outside the house. And it was very loud, and I had no other choice but to record. And I listened to it afterwards, and you can barely hear my voice over the recording. So I had to I sent the guys the recording with this noise in the background. I was like, I know this sounds terrible, but this is my recording space today. Can I do this tomorrow? And they were like, do it tomorrow.
Just like, dot. No more,
Yeah.
just do it tomorrow. Just please, thank you.
Yeah, in that case, there was just nothing I could do with it. That was several years ago, though. So it's not the case with my studio at the moment. My studio now is very, very, very soundproof. I think the best thing about doing voice acting is that it's very diverse. You never do anything twice. Well, if you do like these kinds of voiceover jobs for firms, there's always going to be a certain element of similarity because you provide the product and the product is based in the same thing. But for example, for video games, for example, then there's never exactly the same thing. At least I haven't had a job where I've done the same character twice. There's always some kind of nuance in there, and it's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, that was it.